So the next section is all done on the website, so it's all there, and plus whatever I talk about. So all of our content is in GitHub. So we really don't have any sort of secret repositories or other places. We use Slack, which we'll talk about in a little while, but really everything that's going on. I mean, this is why the Dojo is actually on GitHub, because these pages here are all generated from our GitHub repository. So not only is all the code there, but also the documentation. So if I go on to GitHub, so you see this is github.com/ODPi/Egeria. That's where I am. And what you'll see is, firstly, it's a big project. But you'll see within here are .md files. And these are documentation files that generate that website that I was on. And the actual dojo that we're working through is located in tutorials. So open metadata resources, tutorials, and the Egeria dojo is here. And what you see, these are all the files that make it up. And you see the same text here that I was showing you before. Now, some people like our posh website and some people like GitHub. You can follow along. It doesn't matter which version you're using. It's just, yeah, as I say, it really is the same content. It's rendered slightly differently in each case. So we're in step 2. So that's the GitHub repository. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. So you can navigate using this structure up here if you're on GitHub itself, and then you can go down and go back. The other thing we have is, this is one layer at a time, is there's a file called content organization. And what this is trying to do is show more of the hierarchical structure of the modules that we have in the project. So if you are ever a bit lost, particularly if you're working on the technology, this is actually quite a useful way to reorient yourself around our module structure. And there's a sort of, in developer resources, this is information about all the tools and different processes and things that we use as a contributor. This is our conformance suite. So this is a big test framework that we have for testing connectors into the ecosystem. The distribution is where we build the install image. All of our code and most of the documentation, like user guides and things, is in the implementation section. And you'll see there are different types of services. Adapters are plugins, effectively. The admin services is the thing we're going to use a lot today, which is setting up the configuration. Common services, this is the sort of internal shared services that you only really need to know about if you're deep inside the code. Our frameworks define APIs for, our open APIs for plugging in different behaviors. So third-party tools plug in through the connector framework, discovery engines plug in through the discovery framework, and governance engines plug in through the governance action framework. So this is our main plugin environment. There's actually one missing here because we also have an audit log framework which will meet as well. And then we have servers that are actively managing and using metadata. There are governance servers. The platform, we're going to learn all about the platform. Repository services is the capability that manages storing of metadata, but also the exchange of metadata. The server chassis is part of the platform capability. And then we're going to talk a little bit about user interfaces towards the end of today. A large part of the website is in publications, and then we have our resources, which includes the tutorials where we are today. So that's a very high level walkthrough of what we have, but you know, it's there all the time. There's plenty of time to look at it and enjoy it. And enjoy it, yes. So that's the sort of the main thing. The other area that's really useful is the community guide. And this community guide is almost like your startup list. It gives you the very first thing is that we want an open, friendly community that anyone can join. And so the Linux Foundation, which the ODPi is a part of, is very, very keen on this. And so we have a code of conduct that's common across many Linux Foundation projects, which I think is incredibly important in terms of the success of the project. So that's our code of conduct. And then we have lots of different links. So we have our weekly calls. Here's the information about joining the Slack channel if you've not managed to do it yet. We have a mailing list, although most of what comes on the mailing list is there's a meeting. And then we have other websites. So the homepage is the posh version of the GitHub documentation. But there are also other sites that cover all the different webinars that we've done over time, which of course is, so they are all on YouTube as well, but this list has got the information about the session itself and other links as well. So not only does it have the content, but it has the background information too. So it's a little bit easier to go through. And then the other thing you'll notice is that the GitHub repository that we're using is the Egeria one, but there are others that are part of the project that are building out additional content. And we have this constant debate about, do we have one big repository with everything in, or do we have a variety? So most is in the Egeria repository, but for example, this is specialized connectors. You only need them if you're running Hadoop. So that's why they're in a separate repository. Similarly, if you're an IBM information server customer, then there are connectors and things for connecting that environment to Egeria. So that's why they're here. We have, this was actually a slightly historical thing in that we originally started as a data governance project. And so the material from that, the information for governance professionals is actually all managed in the data governance Git repository. And then this one is empty at the moment, but it will have projects to help developers learn to build connectors and various other plugins into Egeria. And so it will guide developers through building them and then running them in Egeria. So that's what that one's for. And then the Egeria Palisade is some work that we're doing with another open source project called Palisade around advanced management of access control. And Palisade has some really great ideas about how you do that, particularly when you're looking at consent around access related to purpose, which is one of the things that's in the GDPR. And Palisade is looking for a metadata repository, so it was a really good union. So that's ongoing work, and that's where that's located. The other thing we have is links to, I want to contribution, and that actually comes to our day 2 part of the dojo, which the things we're going to do tomorrow, that will take you through a very detailed explanation of exactly how you create a contribution. So we do provide good documentation for that process. And that's really it. So as I say, the community guide is your sort of number one. It's your starting landing page, and it should give you the links to everything you need to connect back into the ecosystem. So that is really what I wanted to cover in this section. We have 15 minutes, and I believe then we have a break. So have a look at both this page, the Egeria project introduction, and let's go back. So let's have a look at both the introduction and the project introduction. Think about the questions that are posed there. Can you answer them? If you need any help or want any more discussion, we will be around for the next 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have a 30-minute break. Oh yes, the downloading, I forgot about that. So if you want to do your downloading for the next session, the 2 links are here. and they will cover the process, just cover a little bit about what these tools are, and show you how to install them. Again, very Mac centric, so if you have any problems on another operating system, or actually any problems at all, just let us know.